It's hard to believe, but it's been more than 2 years since Tudor released this Black Bay Chrono. To this day, it's the hottest watch that Tudor sells. It's one of the hardest watches to find, especially in this Panda dial variation. In today's video, I will do a full review of this watch and try to answer why is this watch still so hot. This watch case is 41 millimeters in diameter. It's about 50 millimeters from one lug to another. It has a lug opening of 22 millimeters and it's around 14.5 millimeters thick. The case material is 316L stainless steel. It has a satin finish on the top of the lugs and a high polish finish on the sides of the case. The crown is at the 3 o'clock position. It's a signed crown with the Tudor rose. There are the two chrono pushers, one at the 2 o'clock position, one at the 4 o'clock position. The case back is a screw down type case back. Interestingly, it doesn't protrude too much. It's almost flat to the case, which I appreciate, so the case back itself doesn't add to the thickness of the watch. And lastly, there is this tachymeter type bezel executed in aluminum. And we have a domed sapphire crystal with some AR coating. The dial on this Tudor Black Bay Chrono is one of the biggest reasons for its success. It has what's called a Panda dial, which is essentially a white, in this case silver dial, with black sub-registers. This watch also exists with what's called a reverse Panda dial, which is essentially a black dial with white sub-registers. But for whatever reason, that version is not nearly as popular as this white dial version. This version is much harder to get. People just tend to prefer Panda dials. I don't know if it's the tie-in with the Rolex Daytona or it's just a more attractive look. Personally, I prefer the reverse Panda dials, but I gotta admit, on this specific watch, I think Panda dials do look better. You also have applied indexes for the hour marks. Of course, they're all loomed, as well as this set of hands. The watch has this iconic snowflake hand for the hours. As you can see, the loom is pretty good, and you could actually go swimming and diving with this watch. I don't know how many people did, but you could because it does have 200 meters of water resistance. One of the big complaints that people have had about this watch, and I kind of agree with this complaint, is the fact that this snowflake hours hand, when it's in a position at the 3 o'clock or around 9 o'clock, it blocks the sub-registers. So it kind of defeats the purpose of having a chronograph. You can still sort of read the timer if you really want to, but it does make it a little harder. So it is a design oversight. But let's be honest, how many people actually use the chronographs as they intended to be used? At the 6 o'clock position, there is a cutout for the date window. The date wheel is color matched to the color of the dial. And usually on watches, I prefer not to have date windows. I gotta admit, on this one here, it works pretty well. I think it's integrated well and it does not throw off the balance. These watches could be had on the stainless steel bracelet, on the NATO strap, or on this leather strap. The one I have here is of course on the leather strap. It's actually my first time experiencing these Tudor leather straps, and I gotta say, they are quite nice. I still would prefer this watch on a stainless steel bracelet. I think these watches just belong on the bracelet, but this strap is of a really good quality. First of all, it is soft, it is subtle, and it conforms to your wrist very easily. It's not too stiff. And the hardware is also executed well. I mean, you wouldn't expect anything else from a $4,000 watch. It has an engineered style folding buckle with a clamshell mechanism for safety, a couple of loops there to take care of the access strap, and on the wrist, here it is on my 7.5 inches wrist. I think the watch works and looks pretty good. I think the big complaint with this watch was the thickness. 14.5 millimeters, it's not exactly thin, but then again, automatic chronographs tend to be on the thicker side, so I think 14.5 millimeters thickness is not outrageous. What is slightly harder to pull off is the lug-to-lug distance. It's about 50 millimeters, so you do have to have a bit of a larger wrist or prefer larger watches to really enjoy this one. If you have a smaller wrist, this watch might simply be too large for you. It might overhang your wrist, which is not something that you want. So if you are buying one of these watches, I would strongly recommend you try one on before you pull the trigger. A lot of times people buy these watches online without trying them on. And I think with this one specifically, you do have to try it on to see how it fits, whether you like the fit or not, because after you receive it, a lot of times it's too late. As far as the movement powering this watch, it has a COSC certified caliber MT5813 automatic movement, which is essentially a Breitling B01 movement with some modifications. Extended power reserve to 70 hours, it has 41 joules and it beats at 28,800 vibrations per hour. It also, of course, has a date complication. One of the advantages of buying a watch 2 years after its release, you can sort of read the reviews and watch videos like this to see if the movements hold up. Happy to say this movement does hold up. You do have an occasional post on a forum, people complaining about the movement, but for the most part, these movements have proven to be very reliable and very robust. Overall, I like this watch a lot more than I thought I would. I think it's a very solid offering, especially in this $4,500 price category. There just isn't too much competition of automatic chronographs with Panda dials that offer this type of quality, this type of movement, and these attractive looks. Admittedly, the Panda dial and the tie-in with the Rolex Daytona is the two biggest drivers behind the popularity of this watch. But those two things put aside, just on its own, it is still a very solid offering, and the other two things are just bonuses. So I can definitely see and understand why people love these watches so much and why they're so popular. Would I pick one up? Probably not this specific version, but maybe in the future, if they were to make a slightly smaller, maybe slimmer version with a hand-wound movement, I'd be maybe into that. But hey, those were just my thoughts on this watch. Leave your thoughts in a comment section below. I always enjoy reading them. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to the YouTube channel for more videos like this. Thanks for watching this one, and we'll see you next time. Bye.